Hello and welcome to another episode of the Agency Leadership Podcast. I'm Chip Griffin.
And I'm Ginny Dietrich.
And Ginny, I've heard that you might be involved with this thing. I think it's called the PESO model.
Oh,
You
maybe.
you may, you use
Mm,
that, right? That's
Yeah,
you found
it's
it and you said
just
this is something we should use.
something I just found and
Yeah,
thought we should use it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. No, in all fairness, you are in fact the
Uh,
inventor of the PESO model, which is widely used throughout the PR and communications world. And it has been evolving with the times, as we all should be. And so I think we have some new news that you've been sharing around the PESO model.
oh, well, according to a couple of people on the internet, it has not evolved at all because they are not able to use Google or AI to say, has the PESO model evolved since 2014? Perhaps. It has. All of last year, I spent a good amount of time, especially on the blog and the Spin Sucks podcast, talking about visibility engineering, which is where owned and earned media meet, because that's where the LLMs are getting their information, right? We're finding more and more that they're scrubbing websites and then they're comparing that to earned media, to the things that media, not just traditional media, newsletters, podcasts, things like that, that they're saying about the brand and looking to see if they match. And if they do, then they're appearing, you start to appear in AI answers. So I spent a good amount of time last year exploring that and understanding that, and using the blog and the podcast as my sandbox to learn more about it and teach the industry about it and understand what was happening. And as part of that, I said, okay, it's time to do a big refresh of the certification, because we did the certification in 2020, and then we did a small update to it in 2024. And this one is a completely revamped certification that shows you how exactly AI is, how exactly you're showing up in AI answers, and doing that via the PESO model. So we start with owned, we go to earned, then we use shared and paid. There's integration and measurement, and it brings it all together. So I'm actually, I said to my team, not to brag, but this is really good. It's a really, really good course. And last March, I hired a chief learning officer who has helped me build it into something that's more effective for an adult learner. So it's really specific to, you can get the work done while you're also a working professional. So she has done a really nice job of bringing that element into it. It has AI prompts so that you can use the PESO AI that we built to help you do the work, and it's pretty good. I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of the work we did.
Well, I mean, it really is something that fuels most communication thinking in smart organizations today, whether that's agency side,
Yep.
client side, that sort of thing. Now, it's not always as well understood. It should be. Some people just throw the term around a little bit willy nilly,
Yes.
without really thinking it through. Of course, there are the people who claim that it's also their invention, which is, you know. But we're not going to go down that path because we're staying positive today, Ginny.
Yes.
We're going to stay
Yes.
positive.
Positive. Yes.
But I think to me, one of the things that when I look at the PESO model, I think is, it's great because it is an overall set of principles and framework that is effectively timeless when it comes to communications. And then it's the implementation side of it, the tactical side of it. That's the piece that needs to evolve. The four letters are still the same. It's not like
Right. Yes.
the evolution has not
Yes.
been to change PESO to
Nope.
something else.
Nope.
It's really just saying, okay, all of these different components, the paid, earned, shared, and owned, have evolved over the last 10 or 15 years. And
Yeah.
so how we implement it needs to adapt to that.
Yeah. It's very much, when we did it in 2020, it was very much like how you're using content marketing really to inform your contributed content through earned, and then sharing that link through social, and then putting some money behind it to boost it. And that was 6 years ago. So, and it worked back then, right? Social still worked from the perspective that you could post a link and people would follow that path back to your website. Well, people don't do that anymore. We are in a 0-click world. And so how does that affect the work that we're doing? So you're right. The paid, earned, shared, and owned doesn't change. That model stays the same. It's the pieces on top that have evolved. And so now it's really, how are we helping to inform humans, search engines, and LLMs so that we're showing up no matter if it's a human looking, if it's Google surfacing information, or if it's an AI surfacing information. We show up no matter what. And it's really, that's what it's really about, is how do you engineer that visibility? How do you make sure that you're showing up in the right places at the right time to the right people?
And so if you're thinking about leaning into the PESO model for your communications needs, where should you be starting today? Is it owned? Is it social? Is it, how has it changed, if at all, from that standpoint over the last decade?
Owned is still the foundation, because without anything, without your own thought leadership, your subject matter experts, your content, all of that, there's nothing to demonstrate to a journalist, a creator, a newsletter author, a podcast host, what you're about and how you're different. So that's the foundation. There's nothing to then to just create that distribution layer through shared, and there's certainly nothing to amplify through paid. So that's always been the foundation. There are of course exceptions. If you're selling widgets, or you're um you have an Amazon store or something like that, then I would probably start with paid, but that's the exception to the rule. For the most part, most organizations need to start with owned. And we used to say that then you could go to earned or shared depending on your goals. Now we're saying actually the best path for engineering that visibility is owned then earned, because you need that credibility so the LLMs can cite that information. Then you build your distribution layer, and then you amplify your work.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is that websites are not dead, despite all of these,
Nope,
headlines that you like to see people's,
they are not.
with the rise of websites are dead. You're not even going to need a
Nope,
website in 5 years.
no, you still need a website, because otherwise the LLMs don't have anywhere to get the information about you. Humans don't have any. I mean,
Right.
we still go to websites. We might not go, a direct click like we used to, but we still go to websites to get information. So yeah, you still need a website. I hate the such and such is dead. The PR there's one that PR is dead right now. Like, PR is not dead. Come on. You can't do You're not going to show up in AI answers if without PR. So PR is not dead.
Yeah. Now the X is dead is has always been one of my pet peeves when it comes to. I mean, that really is something that took off during the start of the social media
Yeah.
era, whether it was,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
press release is
Yeah.
dead, this is dead,
Yep.
whatever. I mean, and you know just it's not true. I mean, I always used to say back 20 years ago, people used to say that radio was dead. Radio is still very much around, and radio is still
Right.
around in certain forms. I mean, when I'm
Yes.
driving around, I listen
Yes.
to radio. Is
Yes.
it terrestrial radio? No, it's satellite radio.
Right.
But guess what? It's still radio,
It's still radio. Yep.
right?
I still
Podcasts are
listen to it
effectively
too.
radio, just
Yep.
transmitted in a different fashion.
Yep.
And so, I think that the people need to understand that the underlying technology may evolve, some of the tools will evolve, but
Absolutely.
the principles and concepts will largely remain the same. Doesn't mean that everything stays.
No.
Certainly some things, do go away, or become so small that they're irrelevant. But, I think we need to be careful about those things. And to me, with a website, to me, the other value is it still is a great place to be the central repository of all your information as all of these things change around you. I mean, if for the last 10 or 15 years you've been using your website as your content hub and housing at least your most important, most valuable stuff there, it doesn't matter whether Medium or Substack comes or goes. It
Right.
doesn't matter whether people move from X to LinkedIn to whatever, that
Yep.
you still have a source of truth for your own information, which becomes even more valuable in the world of AI and LLMs.
That's exactly right. I mean, we have preached for years. We've all preached for years that you should not build an audience or content on rented land, because, to exactly your point, the rented land goes away. X has become something that nobody wants to hang out on. We've moved to LinkedIn. Lots of people have moved to Substack. So those pieces will change. So don't. I think that theory philosophy stays the same, because you are building something that you own, that you control, and allows you to control that narrative and tell the story the way you want to, and then you rent that out to other places versus building on rented land where it will go away.
Well, and I think that there are a lot of avenues that are opening up to organizations with particularly those that have more content already, but also by building it up. And I think in particular of the AI assistant I built on the Saga website,
Yep.
that would not be possible without
Right.
1,000+
Yep.
articles and
Yep.
videos and that kind of stuff, because that is the fuel for that
Absolutely.
tool.
Yep.
And if I was trying to do it based off of, see what you can find that I've posted on LinkedIn or Twitter or things over the years, and it's just not going to work. And so having that in a world where you're able to start customizing your own versions of LLMs for your internal or external audiences, huge value exists there. So having that central repository, I think, is actually of increasing value today, not decreasing.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I was talking to a client last week and she said that one of the goals for 2026 is they have 17 different brands. So each brand has its own chief executive. And what she wants the comms team for each of those brands to do is build an AI agent that helps them with that CEO's voice. And they can't do that without content. They can't do it without the executives speeches, webinars, podcasts, appearances, media relations. Like they have to have all of that content, blog posts that they've written or articles that they've written for the website. They have to have that to be able to feed that and train the AI. So without it, they don't have any, to your point, fuel that will allow them to do that. So 100% that is accurate.
So as we're thinking about implementing peso properly, so not just I heard the term, it sounds cool. I made a list of 4 columns of for each, and I just started just chucking stuff in there.
Mhm.
I mean, how
Mhm.
do I go about learning it the right way? And we're not turning
Are
this
you
into a
throwing me a softball?
QVC, show here, but at the same time, I think it is valuable for people to understand what is out there in a more formal sense to
Yeah.
understand and,
Yeah.
and adopt the process for their own organization.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the PESO model certification is the place to get the information because one of the things we see is exactly what you said, that people create their 4 columns and they say, "Okay, well, we've got some content and we're doing some media relations and we're throwing that on social and all right, we'll put some budget behind some of our organic social and we've got the PESO model." And that's not the PESO model, that's a list of tactics. Um so what the certification does is it walks you through exactly a scientific layer to it. It walks you through that scientific layer that allows you to embed an operating system that that foundation of your work so that as things evolve and the industry changes and your business goals change, you're able to change the tactics on top of it. Um, we also hear, well, gosh, my clients can't afford to do a full peso program. So what should I do? And in fact, they can afford it. You're just thinking about it as this huge, overwhelming thing. And so the certification walks you through if you're a solopreneur or a small agency, it walks you through if you're mid-size, and it walks you through if you're a large corporation or an enterprise organization. And I will say for small organizations, which are most of our listeners, it's really about how do you take one piece of content and repurpose it? So let's say that you do a webinar. How do you take that webinar and create some content around it that from what the webinar was, not promoting it, not trying to get registrations, but saying, okay, here's what we learned in the webinar. So we're going to create some how-to or thoughtful content for that. And then we're going to take pieces of the webinar and we're going to break it down for social posts. And then, yeah, we're going to put some money behind some of it. And we're also going to go to some of our trade media and we're going to say, hey, listen, our subject matter expert or our chief executive just did this webinar and here's what they talked about. Are you interested in some contributed content? So it allows you to do that in a really interesting, effective way without you having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or have a large team. You can do it without a lot of resources. I mean, I built the PESO model framework for my agency and we were not at the time a big agency.
Mhm.
So that's what it was built for, is to make it so that we could do more with less and do more with less resources and less time and less people and less budget and all the things. So it is definitely feasible. So that's what it teaches you how to do.
So I think one of the other concerns that some particularly smaller agencies have when it comes to peso is not just the clients and their budget, but their own capabilities. And so is it
Fair.
realistic for a
Yep.
small agency
Yep.
to be able to deliver. We talk all the time about being careful about being a full service
Yep.
agency, but
Yep.
to implement PESO, do you have to be a full service agency?
You do not. That's the other thing that the certification walks you through is if you have the capability yourself in-house, or you yourself can do it, then here's how you do it. If you're building it for an external team or an external agency, here's how you do it. If the client has a team that can do it, here's what you're going to do to build the strategy and the creative brief, and then you'll hand it off. But here's what is expected for here's what's expected of you to deliver, and here's what the expectation is for the output from the client team or the agency team, whatever happens to be. So it has those 3 paths depending on where you are. So yeah, that's a really good point. It doesn't the certification expects you to build the plan and the strategy, and then based on where you are, it meets you where you are. So if you have a team that you can execute or that you can delegate it to, great. If your client has a team you can delegate it to, great, but it meets you where you are so that you don't have to be the expert, you don't have to be the strategist, you don't have to be the implementer, but you do have to build the plan and the strategic path to be able to help the team get there.
Mhm. And I mean, let's talk through some of the logistics around the certification. I mean, how long does it take to get certified? Is this, I do a weekend course and I'm done? Is it
Oh,
an
no.
ongoing process? Is it the equivalent of a master's degree? And I got to
Uh,
spend 2 years with, countless hours. What is exactly does it look like?
It's built to be done in 8 weeks, but I will tell you that most working professionals do not do it that fast. I would say most working professionals do it between 10 and 12. Um, each module is so you have the intro, earned or owned, earned, shared, paid, integration, measurement, and then the operating system and how to embed that. So it's 8 modules, and each module has between 6 and 12 lessons, and each lesson is like 8 to 10 minutes. So, you're looking at an hour to an hour and a half of learning of content, and then you have the exercises for each lesson. So I would venture to guess if you use the AI prompts effectively, that are in there, it's between 2 to 5 hours a week, probably.
And who is the certification best for? Is this someone who's got, prior experience? Is this, hey, I'm fresh out of college and I want to have this so I can use it to, improve my job prospects? What kind of experience are they expected to have or knowledge are they expected to have coming in?
It's we built it for any level of expertise. The interesting thing about it, of course, if you have more experience, it's easier for you to grasp the concepts and implement it quickly. But we also use the certification in 100 plus universities, and the students go through it. So we find that it's different for them because they have to use a fake business where you can use your own business or you can use your client's business, right? They have to kind of create the business as they go. But it's really fun to see what kinds of things come out of that. So it's built for every level of expertise. It's a different way of thinking about communications. So it's not like you have to have 20 years of experience or only a
Right.
year of experience. It's because it's teaching you something new.
Gotcha. And is are the certifications only at the individual level? Are there agency certification programs? What exists in that
Yeah,
realm?
that's a great question that we evolved to. So it used to be it was individual based, and now we've built it so that you can put a team through it, you can put the whole agency through it. The certification itself goes with the individual because it comes through Syracuse University. So if you have a team member that you want to put through it, if they leave, the certification goes with them. So you cannot say that you do the PESO model anymore if they leave. So we always recommend, I mean, I'm an agency owner, so I'd love to see the agency owner themselves go through it, but I also know that that's not always doable. So, but if you want the certification to stay with your agency, that's the way to do it.
Mhm. And I guess as we're winding up here, where do you see the peso model headed in the years, in front of us? I would assume it will continue to evolve. Does your crystal ball tell you anything about, what that evolution will look like?
It will continue to evolve. Have not looked into my crystal ball yet because I've been so heads down deep into developing the content for this that I haven't been able to forward think yet, but I'm very much looking forward to being able to go back to my regular job and start to think about the future, but I'm not there yet.
I guess that's fair. I guess asking you for the next version before this version is even fully out in the
Yeah,
wild may
I've literally been like blinders on, heads down, creating all this content.
well, I had to try at least, see
Fair.
if I could get the
Ask me in a
inside scoop
month.
on where the industry is headed so
Ask
that
me in a month.
I can get there before everybody else, or at least before everybody else except you. Um, all right. If someone wants to learn more about the PESO model or the certification or any of that kind of stuff, where's the best place for them to go for
I
that?
feel like we just did an interview that
Well, that was not the intent going in, but
right.
it made the most sense to me. And you know me, I follow the thread wherever it feels like
That's
it
fair.
goes.
That's
And
fair.
some of
That's
these were
fair.
questions I actually didn't know the answer to, so I thought I would
Yeah.
ask them.
Alright. Spinsucks.com. There's a PESO model certification page. I think it's actually PESO-model-certification.
You love your hyphens on that website.
I don't know why it's that way. That's just what they do.
Oh well,
Ask our web firm.
I'm sure people can end up finding it.
PESO model certification. Spinsucks.com.
There you go. Excellent. Well, I think this was good information. And I think we do talk a lot about the importance of agencies continuing to adapt. Particularly in this age of AI, and if we are standing still, we are going to lose our jobs to
Yeah.
AI and
Yeah.
the other enhancements and improvements that are out there. I think this is one of many ways that you can make sure that you are not getting left behind, and so certainly something that most agencies should be at the very least learning more about, if not actually
Yep.
directly implementing within their
Yep.
businesses.
Yeah. And like I said, it has AI baked in. So if you're
Yep.
still on the fence about AI, it's a good way to dip your toes in the water.
And if you're still on the fence on AI, why? Why?
It's so much fun.
It really is. It can be a
It
time suck
is.
at times, but
Sure. Yeah.
it is also
Yeah.
fun and frankly useful. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
the.
Right.
But anyway, this is not an AI show. This is a PESO show.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
we will come
Yes.
back and bash you on AI again in the future. Not you, but you, the listener. So
You're
all
the listener. Yeah.
right. With that, we'll wrap up this episode of the Agency Leadership Podcast. I'm Chip Griffin,
I'm Ginny Dietrich.
and it depends.